Let's start out here, curveballer, as a reminder. Took this from 150 up to here and wagered it to win this much. Plus 5.5. When it first came out, the line was that. Retard curveballers do stuff like this where they take the Titans because it pays good, and that is a superiorly athletic team. So makes sense. Or they just punk out and do coin toss. But if it's scripted, you don't need to do stuff like that, correct? Now let's look at what the line tells us today. I have a curveballer friend that wants to tell me they're only giving 4.5 now. He wanted to tell me when I got it at 5.5, maybe I should have waited, it would have went to 6. And now that we're closing in on the Super Bowl, he wants to tell me how he heard on the radio several people taking the Eagles, and that thespread.com says that the public's put 58% of their money on the Eagles. And I said, well, okay, you can believe what you want to, and that may even well be true. So another way of looking at that is they never were going to let them cover, right? Because they're the favorite. They figure most people will bet on the favorite. So maybe most people weren't betting on the favorite at 5.5. They were taking the Eagles. So they lower it to 4.5 to get more people to take the favorite, which is not going to cover. They're going to win the game, but not cover. So this will be your winner. Now, listen, bear me out here. If you'll look at, I believe I gave you a second half line in the Jacksonville Jaguars in a previous episode. But if you'll look at the halftime second half line for the Super Bowl and compare it to what the game line was, and you'll see how this works. With the Patriots, at least, they were 14-point favorites in a game. And right before it went off, they went to 14.5-point favorites. And that was to scare you off of taking them because they were going to let them cover. And it ended up being a blowout. And they were up by significant margin in halftime, and they were still supposed to outscore them by 4.5. And I told the person then, the curveballer, hey man, it's a hook right there. It's telling you it's going to be a blowout Patriots. Still wouldn't listen. And you get the same thing here, and you still can't see it. Because you don't want to believe it's scripted, it's fake, it's not for real. You still want to believe you're on a ball. You want to believe that this is a real athletic competition when it's really fake. Wake up before you burn up, curveballer.
They made an emergency stop right here in Alaska. It only makes sense on a flat Earth map, not on a globe, okay? So this is the first flight. Let's talk about the second one. From USA Today, Cathay Pacific plane faulty fan for emergency landing. So I have here a map, also the same thing. Okay, they left Hong Kong to Los Angeles. They could have stopped right here in Hawaii. Instead, they went all the way to Alaska. It doesn't really make sense on the globe. Just like the Taiwan flight. Makes perfect sense on the flat Earth map. Hong Kong, LA, Alaska. Hong Kong, LA, Alaska. That's where they landed, okay? All right, we got some more. So Qatar Airways makes emergency landing in Alaska, right here. QDN line, okay? Qatar to Alaska. Qatar to, the flight was from Chicago to Doha, okay? From Chicago to Doha. All right, Chicago. Let's look at Chicago right here. Green line. Let's say they're flying straight to Doha over the Atlantic. Okay. They could have stopped in Spain, Portugal, or North Africa, anywhere in North Africa, all the way here to Doha. Okay, this green line will be the route from this flight, Chicago to Doha. Moscow. Moscow is right here. Okay? So how could they have stopped in Moscow if they are flying from Chicago to Doha? Okay? Moscow is up here. Okay, why? Doesn't make sense here. Well, when you look here, you see here the blue line, Chicago, Doha. Okay, what do we have? This sticker right here, Moscow. Okay, this is Moscow right here. Okay, Moscow. Right, Chicago, Doha, Moscow. That's why they landed in Moscow, because it was probably the nearest airport for them if they were flying over Russia. Okay, so we have here. All right, let me read it for you. Moscow, an Emirates passenger plane en route from San Francisco to Dubai made an emergency landing at Moscow's Domodedovo airport after one of its passengers felt sick, a source at the airport told TASS on Sunday. Okay, so another flight from North America to the Middle East that made an emergency landing in Moscow. So let's look here. San Francisco, okay, this is the black line here, San Francisco. Let's say they flew over the Atlantic again, right? They would have to fly over the Atlantic and then Spain, Italy, Turkey, and then Dubai, okay? That's the route. Or if they flew over the Pacific, they would have flown over China, all the way to Pacific, and San Francisco. Right? So, where's Moscow? Why stopping in Moscow? Okay, Moscow is up here. Okay, this circle here is Moscow. Right? Dubai, right here. Okay? Makes no sense. So, one more time, if we look here, San Francisco, okay, get this closer. San Francisco, hi, Dubai, okay, this blue line right here, San Francisco, Dubai, Moscow, hi, they landed in Moscow, okay. All right, we got 2 more flights. This is interesting too. It happened in, let me see here, the date. I don't know. Hi, girl 9 dies on flights to Germany after suffering medical emergency. A young Italian girl has reportedly died during a flight to Germany after suffering a medical emergency. The 9-year-old was a passenger on Lufthansa's Airbus A340-600, flying from Shanghai, China to Munich when she stopped breathing. Okay, so let's look here. Flying from Shanghai to Munich. Okay, that's the red line right here. Okay, Shanghai. Okay, flying over China and Kazakhstan and Munich. Okay, Moscow is not that far. But if you look on a flat map, okay, that would be this red line right here. Shanghai, China, Munich, Moscow. Again, this sticker here means Moscow is right here. Okay, Shanghai, Munich, Moscow, right above Moscow. That's why they landed there. Okay. And the last one that I have, also from Asia to Europe, this is a PIA flight, a Pakistani Airlines flight. PIA Flights makes emergency landing in Moscow. This is from this website. I'm not familiar, never seen this down before. But the London-bound PIA flight made emergency landing in Moscow on Sunday after one of its passengers complained of severe chest pain. The PIA flights PK785 took off from Benazir Bhutto International Airport, Islamabad on Sunday afternoon. That was on March 15, 2015. Okay, March 15, 2015. All right, so it departed from Islamabad to London. All right, so let's find Islamabad right here. Pakistan, right here. Islamabad. So we follow this line to London. Okay, straight flight right here. London, Islamabad. So he flew over Iran and Romania and Germany. Okay, Moscow is up here. All right, not that far. Okay, let's consider. Okay, although they were flying over many other countries, to divert to Moscow would be quite a distance for someone who is complaining of a severe chest pain. But again, if you look on the flat earth map, we have here Pakistan, London, straight over Moscow. Okay, it's a straight flight. Pakistan, London, Moscow. Again, one more time, these dots here, Moscow. Okay, there is another flight that I saw it, but when I went back to try to find the link so I could print, I couldn't find it anymore. I just couldn't find it. It was also a flight over Europe to Germany, coming from somewhere in the Middle East. So that flight, I could not find it anymore, the link.
And you'll have to talk them onto the approach. So help me, you'll have to talk them right down to the ground.
When we go back to the live animation here, the path that it takes, people fail to, instead of making fun of people for saying, oh, the earth is flat, you're dumb, you know, and all the bombardments, you know, that come with it. If you've been in the debates or any part of it, you've probably seen it. People fail to just sit down and compare both models and see which one makes more sense. Now, that's what I do with my diagrams. If you have not seen it, this is what they look like. And what I did was I copied this image here, and you can see the ISS is just a little bit behind here because it was just a few minutes ago. And what I do is I plot the points and compare it. What does this look like on a flat Earth map? Now what I did was I put a dot below New Zealand, and then I put a dot in between here in the area, and the right above Spain in this area, and then I put another dot above Florida and another dot above Mexico. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can see it. Now what this does is that if you follow my mouse, it makes like a half circle, and I also have made a ellipses to follow it, and this ellipses is a little bit more accurate with this line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this layer, and this is what the path looks like. Another thing that I want to show is that this path, it changes quite often. So right here we have a date of the December 17th, and right here we have the date of the January 6, 2016. The path changes quite so often, so it's from here. 1 month later it changes, and then 1 month later it's up here.
And I want you to look down at that city and try to find a football field. The reason I say find a football field is because a football field is how big NASA says the space station is. I have an image of that in a second. But this is 4 different cities, and there are schools down there with football fields and soccer fields on them. So how hard are they to see? Because people say they look up and they see the space station flying overhead. Well, this is 5 miles high, about maybe 6 tops, but 5 miles high, looking down at a city trying to find a football field. Because that's how big the space station's supposed to be. So now, let's look at the space station for a second, compared to the space shuttle, some other satellites that they say are up there. But the International Space Station there has those big 8 solar panel arrays right there. You can see them like wings. Remember that, because they say that the space station is the same size as a football field, which we just tried to find. But this is how big it would look if it was 50 times farther away. See those little 8 little panel arrays in the middle of that white box? That mosquito? That's how big the space station would look from the ground, because it's 50 times farther away. If it's 100 yards across at 5 miles, it's 50 times farther away when it's orbiting at 250 miles, which means it's 50 times smaller, which is 2 yards. It's the size of a go-kart sitting on that football field. You can't even see the football field. So consider that when they say they see it fly over. Here.
This is the update version for you there, Curveballer, in the Super Globe-Tard edition. As we can see, this was correct. So, winners win, losers lose. Pick this day, which master you shall serve. Pick right, Curveball. Curveballer, you know who you are. I beg you. Don't take the under. Don't bet the coin toss. Pick Philly. Be a winner. You wouldn't do it. I said everything you picked would be wrong. You said it would be tails. The coin toss was heads. You picked under. It was over. So you can say that you trend to the win and all that, but you already know. Signs and symbols rule the world. I've told you this over and over. Money talks and something else walks. Let every man be a liar and God tell the truth. The earth is flat. Wake up, curveball, before you burn up. Not all truthers are woke to the fact that the movie JFK, where it says we're through the looking glass, black is white and white is black, basically translates to whatever they tell you is a lie. Most truthers aren't woke up to that. Some have woke up to the fact that it's all garbage and lies. Everything you see in the mainstream, everything they try to convince you of, like these athletic competitions being legit on the up and up, and it's all scripted. I mean, the players, after a while, have to know, why do we always run up the gut on 3rd and 18 and have to punt? Or any number of the calls that are normally called, and all the different things. So I've created a little montage in this section from other truthers to hopefully help point out the light to all the curveballers out there that want to say, it's rigged, but it's not done through the coaches or none of that, not the players. Only done through the officiating. I mean, it's like a circular argument where they try to be half wook on like 9/11. Like some truthers would be like, yeah, there wasn't no Muslims did that. Yeah, that was something else. But all you have to do is go back to the 10th or 15th year anniversary footage that they parade on ABC and all the rest of them, and you can see the plane's got to be CGI. The second plane. The wing is clearly over top of a building that covers the wing, and it's got to be a couple blocks away, the building. It's impossible. So it's obvious CGI. But you'll want to dismiss that and say, no, no, no. That's a bridge too far in your logic, because if you want to admit that they could fake the actual plane, then in your mind you would have to admit they could do any other type of visual display of fakery that would fool you. And if that happens, possibly they fooled us on the moon. And you don't want to think about that, because then that jeopardizes your atheistic worldview. If they fake space, then maybe it lends credence to Genesis. And we can't have none of that, because we know we come from monkeys, right? If you want to believe the lies of man, go right ahead. But the whole world is a stage, as Shakespeare said, and we're merely actors upon it. It's so true. There's deep truths in some of these things that are stated. But you got to find the deep truth, and it's for people with eyes to see and ears to hear. Wake up before you burn up, curveballer.
I want to talk about how professional sports, for the most part, is rigged. And I want to make this video and upload it before the game tonight, because I want there's certain things I want you to look out for in this game if you decide to watch the Super Bowl tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about how professional sports is rigged and why, and some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And it's mostly about money and greed with these billionaire owners. And most of them are Jews or Freemasons or have ties to the occult and secret societies. And they don't leave anything up to chance, basically. They like to push certain feel-good storylines, any kind of narrative that will hype up the game and boost ratings. They like to push. So like this year, for instance, they weren't going to allow the Super Bowl to be, say, the Eagles versus the Jaguars. Who would be that excited about an Eagles-Jaguars Super Bowl except for Eagles and Jaguars fans? It just, nationally and worldwide, it just wouldn't get good ratings. It wouldn't make the NFL the most money. So they weren't going to allow the Jaguars to beat the Patriots. The Patriots, whether you're a Patriots fan or a Patriots hater, you know, fans love to either love or hate a dynasty, and it will boost ratings. So the Eagles-Patriots were chosen to be in tonight's game for several reasons, and we're going to get into that. But let's look into the past at some of these like feel-good storylines that I'm talking about. Let's start with baseball, because I am more of a baseball guy than a football guy. But if you take a look at Major League Baseball, first example, and I can go back further, and obviously Major League Baseball got caught fixing games back in 1919 with the Chicago White Sox playing the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series. But we're not going to go back that far. And we can even go to 2001 when the Yankees lost to the Diamondbacks in the desert right after 9/11. But let's start with 2013 when the Red Sox won the World Series, because the 2012 Red Sox were one of the worst teams in baseball. They had just spent all this money bringing in all these overpriced free agents like Carl Crawford, Adrian Gonzalez. They brought in Bobby Valentine to manage the team, a guy who hadn't managed in over a decade. And it was a complete disaster. The 2012 Red Sox finished, I believe, in last place. Then you got 2013, and every Patriots Day in Boston, they have the Boston Marathon, and the Red Sox were playing a day game in Boston. And then you got the fake-ass Boston bombing marathon. The Boston bombing during the marathon. And that was completely fake. That was a big hoax psyop. And that started the Boston Strong campaign, where they even used the Boston Red Sox B logo for the hashtag Boston Strong campaign, and they put that up on the Green Monster. And then who wins the World Series in 2013, riding that feel-good story? The Boston Red Sox, right? And then 2014 comes along, and once again, the Red Sox are one of the worst teams in baseball. So they win the World Series the year of the Boston bombing, and bookended by 2 years of being god awful. So it just fits too perfectly. And then once again, 2016 with the Cubs winning the World Series, that was very predictable. So many conspiracy theorists predicted the Cubs to win the World Series, and they were my second choice to win the World Series. I ran with a different storyline. I thought it would be fixed for the Mets to win the 2016 World Series. That was the storyline, because, you know, they could push different feel-good storylines. I thought it was going to be the Mets, but the Cubs made for a much better story. I should have seen that at the time. And, of course, the Cubs end their 108-year curse in 2016, 216. 108 is how many stitches are on a baseball. 216 is how many half stitches are on a baseball. It had to do with numerology, ending the curse. It had to do with ratings. It was a 7-game World Series between the Cubs and the Indians. That was a great World Series, a great storyline, a great narrative. And then once again with Major League Baseball, 2017, as soon as Houston got hit with that hurricane and the media blew up the hurricane story in Houston, and J.J. Watt raised like $50 million for Houston, and right then and there I predicted the Houston Astros to win the World Series based nothing other than conspiracy theory. And who wins the World Series? The Houston Astros. It was just so obvious that that's basically how it's been going, and you just got to kind of figure out what the storyline is, and they could change the narrative at any given time. I don't know when they choose the narrative, but basically, they're going to push a feel-good story. And in football, they do the same thing. One thing in football they like to do is if there's a major player in the NFL, a superstar, a future Hall of Famer, if they have a guy like that who's going to retire, if it's possible, they like to set it up so that he can win the Super Bowl in his last season. And then what they say is, he rides off into the sunset with his Super Bowl ring. They did this with John Elway in his last season with the Denver Broncos. And then they did it again with Peyton Manning in his final season, again with the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning was in the league for 18 years. He wore number 18. He was in the league for 18 years, except for the 1 year that he missed the entire season. And we're going to get into that. And even though he was a shell of his former self, and even though he was awful in the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning won a ring in his final season and then retired and then rode off into the sunset. They did this with Jerome Bettis with the Steelers. And they did it with Ray Lewis and the Ravens. When the Ravens played the 49ers, they had these multiple feel-good storylines to push the game, to hype the game, and to boost ratings. So one of the storylines was Ray Lewis is retiring at the end of the season. Will he win a ring in his final season and go out on top? And then, of course, the other storyline for that game was brother versus brother, Harbaugh versus Harbaugh in the Super Bowl, right? And which brother is going to win the Super Bowl? And even though the 49ers and Colin Kaepernick were up big and they were dominating that game, if you remember correctly, then all of a sudden there was a blackout in the dome. The lights go out for 33 minutes. And after that, the momentum shifted and the Ravens went on to win the game. And, the little run the 49ers went on there for a couple seasons with Colin Kaepernick that basically came to an end. And Coach Harbaugh went to coach Michigan. He left the NFL. He was probably so pissed off about that game being so fixed that he actually left the NFL and went to college. Think about that. So they love to push these feel-good narratives, anything that could sell the game. So and another thing they do is they never let a home team, any hosting city, that team will not make the Super Bowl. That's why the Vikings lost this year and got blown out by the Eagles, because they weren't going to let the Vikings go to the Super Bowl. 52 years of Super Bowls, and the hosting team has never made it. And I don't know exactly why the NFL does that, but for some reason, the NFL does not want a hosting team in the Super Bowl. Their logic might be that it might localize a game and there would be less travel and maybe lower ratings. But for whatever reason, the NFL does not let a home team make it to the Super Bowl. So think about 2011, the year that Peyton Manning took off. So he had started 16 games in every year of his career. And then the year that the Super Bowl was going to be hosted in Indianapolis, he elected for neck surgery. Now, I believe he could have rehabbed and avoided surgery and played that season, but he basically opted to get the neck surgery. And if Peyton Manning knows going into the season, well, hey, the Super Bowl is in my stadium, in my city, and they're not going to allow the Colts to go play a home Super Bowl, I might as well not even play. I might as well get this neck surgery and take care of myself. So what does that all lead to? It leads to Peyton Manning sitting out the season, the Colts being awful, only winning like 2 games, and then the Colts getting the first pick in the draft and taking Andrew Luck. So it sets the Colts up to have their next franchise quarterback. And of course, the Indianapolis Colts, whose logo is the horseshoe, which is, the lucky horseshoe, they draft a quarterback named Andrew Luck, right? The circumstances that had to go in to allowing the Colts to draft a guy named Luck it's just unbelievable. So, one day in the future, Andrew Luck will win a Super Bowl with the Colts. You'll probably see that. But and then of course, Peyton Manning, he goes on to the Broncos, and the year that marijuana is legalized in Colorado and in Seattle, in those two states, right? So you have Denver versus Seattle, the two cities, the two states that had just legalized pot. They play each other in the Super Bowl, but they didn't allow Peyton Manning win the game. That wasn't his final season. Peyton Manning loses that game, but they made it up to him. I think 2 years later, he wins the Super Bowl in his final season, despite being pretty bad in that game. But they love those storylines. They do not let a home team go to a Super Bowl. Like what the year the Super Bowl was at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. The Giants started the season like 0-6. They had no chance. And who went to the Super Bowl the year it was in Indianapolis? The year that Peyton Manning sat out and couldn't go to the Super Bowl when it was in his building, who goes to the Super Bowl? His AFC arch nemesis, Tom Brady, who he's faced in the AFC Championship like 6 or 7 or 8 times. And most Super Bowls go through either Brady or Manning. And then on the NFC side, it was his brother Eli Manning. So in Peyton Manning's building, they allowed the rematch between Tom Brady and Eli Manning. And of course, Eli Manning defeats Tom Brady for the second time. And a regular season for the Patriots. There's a great video on YouTube right now, I think it's called How the NFL Rigged the 2017 Season for the Patriots. It's spot on. And they set it up so the Patriots get the first round bye, and then basically they play 2 teams with backup quarterbacks, and then they have to go through a third team with a backup quarterback to win a Super Bowl. The Patriots had the easiest road to the Super Bowl, maybe of all time. They're playing 3 backup quarterbacks. And I know, yeah, those guys like Bortles and Foles, they're not awful, but, they're not future Hall of Famers either. And then when you look at the Eagles, when the Saints were playing the Vikings, they couldn't let the Saints beat the Vikings. Because if the Saints had gone on to play the Eagles, they probably would have beat the Eagles. You'd probably end up with the Saints-Patriots Super Bowl, and that's not what was in the cards for this year. So you've got the Vikings were fixed to beat the Saints. And then the Vikings go on and play the Eagles, and you would think that would be a closer game. But no, they had to have the Eagles blow out the Vikings so that the Eagles look like an enticing bet going into the Super Bowl. If the Eagles had just squeaked by the Vikings and their offense maybe didn't really move the ball that well and Foles didn't really perform that well, then nobody would be betting on the Eagles going into the Super Bowl. And the bookies need people to bet both sides. That's why they have a spread to begin with. They need to create a spread, an accurate spread, a realistic spread that will cause people to want to bet on the underdog and make bets go to both sides. That's how they're going to make their money, because you never get true even money. You're going to have to bet 110 to win 100. You don't bet 100 to win 100. There's always a little spread, and that's how the bookies make their money, as long as everyone bets on both sides. So this year you've got in Super Bowl LII. L is in gematria is 12. I is 9. So you've got 12 Brady versus I, which is 9, which is Foles, or II is 9-9, or II is 11, like Carson Wentz. 9-11. Foles and Wentz, 99, 9-11. And this Patriots dynasty all began in the first Super Bowl following 9/11, when Tom Brady, the future GOAT, as they say, the greatest of all time, they call Tom Brady the GOAT, his career began by beating the Rams in the Super Bowl right after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and all that patriotism that was going on in the world in 2001 and 2002. That's when the Patriots began this, magical run. And as the wars haven't come to an end, neither has this Patriots dynasty. It's all set up. Do you see? Numerology does play a part of this. I don't think it plays as big a part as like a guy like Zachary K. Hubbard thinks it does with his gematria. I think he kind of takes it to this level that actually turns people off from the idea that sports is rigged. I think there's other ways to look at it than just through gematria. And I do think it's pretty obvious that the league loves Tom Brady because they know it's going to boost ratings because people either love a dynasty or love to hate a dynasty. So Tom Brady is 5-2 going into Super Bowl 52. And if he wins this one, then he'll be undefeated versus Bird teams. He'll be 6-2 lifetime in the Super Bowl, only losing to the Giants twice. And then he'll have his 6th ring, which kind of puts him on that same level as Michael Jordan, who had 6 championships. Because Tom Brady is kind of like the quarterback NFL equivalent of Michael Jordan. And sports betting has a lot to do with it. It has a lot to do with it because they make more money on the gambling than they do selling tickets or on TV contracts. The gambling on the game is huge, and all these NFL owners, they all have ties to sports betting and stuff like that in the mafia. They know how to do it. They probably have studies on how to fix games without anybody noticing, just through officiating. You know, they've been doing it for years. We've only been catching on to it for a few years, basically. And I think that's why one of the reasons why the NFL has a ratings problem right now. It's not necessarily just the Colin Kaepernick, national anthem protest, which the media loves to blame the NFL's bad ratings on that. One of the reasons why the NFL is having such bad ratings is because people like myself and my friend Tommy, who are former fans, former viewers, we're no longer watching because we've caught on to the rigging. We've caught on to the deception. So they've lost fans in that regard. And I know that's true because I know a lot of those people in real life. We've just stopped watching because we see through the bullshit. Welcome to the rig leagues. And we're going to try to open up sports fans' eyes to the fact that professional sports is rigged and has been for quite some time. And I'm ashamed of myself for not seeing through it sooner. I started seeing maybe a couple years ago. I started seeing it, but I was still 1 foot in, 1 foot out, not really sure, kind of on the fence, not really sure how they did it. Were the players in on it, or was it just the umpires and referees? I wasn't really sure, but now I'm pretty convinced. The 2017 NFL season just highlighted and put an exclamation point on the fact that professional sports is rigged, and I can no longer deny it. And but I kind of tend to think that the Patriots will win this Super Bowl, and Tom Brady will move to 6-2 lifetime in the Super Bowl, and the spread is 4.5. So my prediction would be that the Patriots win by 4. Patriots win by 3 or 4, and the Eagles will cover the spread by like a half a point. And if you bet on the Patriots straight up, you're gonna lose. And if you bet on the Patriots with the points, you're gonna lose. And I think most people will probably bet Patriots minus 4.5, and the Eagles will cover. And if you bet the Eagles on the money line, not many. I don't think you're gonna have a nice little payday. But that would be my prediction. It could go the other way though. It could definitely be the Eagles over the Patriots, and a lot of that will be for esoteric meanings. That could symbolize the Phoenix rising. That could symbolize the end of the Patriot era, the fall of the United States, and basically the end of the Patriots football team, the end of their dominance. It really could go either way, but if you ask me, I do think the Patriots will end up winning this game. They'll probably fall behind first and then make some sort of fourth quarter comeback. But I do think the Patriots will win by 4, and that the Eagles will cover the spread by a half point. And I would probably also bet the over. I don't bet anymore. I haven't bet on anything since I woke up, so it's been over 3 years since I placed a bet. But if I had to bet, I would probably bet the Eagles plus 4.5 over 48.5. And that's just because it's rigged. And the owners and the NFL and the bookies and Vegas, they're going to want to capitalize and make as much money on the betting as possible. So that's why I think they won't. That's why I think the Patriots will win, but they won't cover. So that's my prediction for tonight's game. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe to my Stinky Cash channel. And then, keep your eyes open for the Wrigley Chew podcast.
I'm reminded here to put in at the end of this segment that little Bible quote, if I could paraphrase it, says that out of the mouth of 2 or more witnesses, every word be established. I'd like to call it every true word be established. And what he said was absolutely true. They didn't cover, but in fact they lost. And that might have been for the esoteric rise of the government, the money, monetary. But I think I disagree with him that it's the demise of the Patriots, because Brady will not retire. He'll come back next year, and I believe he'll probably win it and then retire. Feel good story. Make the old people feel like they still can through fake scripted sporting events. Wake up and come off that ball. There is a God, you atheistic retard. Curveball, wake up. Kenny G curveballers do what they assume is due diligence on picking which winner is going to win, So they go ahead and go through their montage of figuring out who's got the better defense and whose offense puts up more points. And all this stuff is garbage and is designed to get a certain response out of the Kenny G gambler. I've heard people want to quote to me, "Oh, the web says that the majority of the public's money is on the underdog." Well, again, if you want to believe such fictitious shit to get you to take the other team with your money because really it's a superior team in your mind, but somehow you have decided in your own mind that the team that's given points is somehow the money's not on that team. It's on this team here because you heard in the news, in the mainstream media, about these big money wagers, whether it be other athletic actors like boxers that are said to make these big wagers on this game, or actors, or whatever it is. You want to believe that, but that's giving you the greed bug and showing you, oh, look at how much money that person's going to make. You better get some of that. It's designed to promote that in you. If you have that gambling mentality, you're going to fall victim to that. And obviously the curveballer friend that wanted to take the coin toss and punk out and take the under on the points lost everything. It's as it says in 2 Timothy, you've got to rightly divide the word of truth. Wake up before you burn up, curveballer.
Even adds up to 33. So you have a score 33-33. Okay? PHI is 33. Philly. 33rd level Freemasons. Jesus dies at 33. You can't make this stuff up, guys. I'm telling you, we are living in a full-blown matrix in everything. It's all rigged. Everything. And look at this. See, 88 hugs him. Remember, Trump in gematria is 88. Watch. Is that them telling us that Trump's going to betray us?
For the touchdown. And again, all you get...
When the bankers win, when they get rid of the Patriot, will Trump, the Mormon, Walmart, 88 in gematria, 88 is 16.
Now is the Jesse James play with Pittsburgh. Does he complete the pro?
You can't make this stuff up, guys. Yeah, look, 88 goes and hugs him. Is this them saying that is subliminally that Trump's going to betray us? Trump is going to betray us. We even have a military commander called Betray Us. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You cannot make this stuff up, guys. Matter of fact, I didn't even spend time doing this. If I broke this game down, I could come up with just amazing crap. I'm just telling you. All of this stuff is mathematical matrix. We are living in a full-blown new test of the mental matrix. In the governing of the mental, they govern everything. They control everything. Everything happens by the numbers.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't bad. Now, what will it take for us to get that videotape? The end of the world.
Where we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation. At least not just. We are also a Jewish nation, a Muslim nation, and a Buddhist nation, and a Hindu nation, and a nation of non-believers.
Hey Google, who is Allah?
According to Wikipedia, in Islamic theology, God is the all-powerful and all-knowing creator, sustainer, ordainer, and judge of everything in existence.
Hey Google, who's Buddha?
According to Wikipedia, Gautama Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautama, Shakyamuni Buddha, or simply the Buddha, after the title of Buddha, was an ascetic and sage, on whose teachings Buddhism was founded.
Hey Google, who's Jesus?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
Hey Google, who's Brahma?
Here's a summary from the website bbc.co.uk. Brahma is the first god in the Hindu triumvirate. The triumvirate consists of 3 gods who are responsible for the creation, upkeep, and destruction of the world. The other 2 gods are Vishnu and Shiva.
Hey Google, who's Jesus Christ?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Hey Google, who's New Age?
According to Wikipedia, the New Age newspaper is a South African national daily newspaper, owned and operated by TNA Media Limited. TNA Media...
Hey Google, what's New Age?
New Age, a broad movement characterized by alternative approaches to traditional Western culture, with an interest in spirituality, mysticism, holism, and environmentalism.
Hey Google, who's Jesus?
My apologies. I don't understand.
There is a book, and it has the information you need. The President's Book of Secrets. A collection of documents for President's eyes only. The truth behind the JFK conspiracy.
It contains all of our nation's secrets. I need to see the President's book.
The only way you'll ever see that book is if you get elected president.
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
We had a very constructive conversation with the Clinton campaign, and Cardinal Dolan said, if the Cardinals and the clergy haven't destroyed the church in the last 2,000 years, the Democratic Conference don't stand a chance.
Life from its natural beginning to its natural end.
It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot imagine. He hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society.
And we are, as a people, opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Reverend Mesa, Reverend Rock, I'm grateful for your generous invitation to state my views. But because I am a Catholic, and no Catholic has ever been elected president, the real issues in this campaign have been obscured, perhaps deliberately, in some quarters less responsible than this. So it is apparently necessary for me to state once again, not what kind of church I believe in, for that should be important only to me, but what kind of America I believe in. I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source, where no religious body seeks to impose its will, directly or indirectly, upon the general populace, that an act against one church is treated as an act against all. For while this year it may be a Catholic against whom the finger of suspicion is pointed, in other years it has been, and may someday be again, a Jew, and may someday be again a Jew.
63 years ago, in the midst of the Red Scare, inspired by Joseph McCarthy, a US Senator from Texas was worried. A tax-exempt, non-profit group called Fax Forum, an anti-communist organisation, was spreading its conspiratorial philosophy on TV and radio in the guise of public service programmes. Beginning in 1950, McCarthy became the most visible public face of a period in which Cold War tensions fueled fears of widespread communist subversion. He was noted for alleging large numbers of communists and Soviet spies and sympathisers inside the federal government and elsewhere. Ultimately, the controversy he generated led him to be censured by the US Senate. The term McCarthyism, coined in 1950 in reference to McCarthy's practices, was soon applied to similar anti-communist activities. Today, the term is used in reference to what are considered demagogic, reckless and unsubstantiated accusations, as well as public attacks on the character or patriotism of political opponents.
You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
The future president was a wily legislator, and on July 2nd, 1954, LBJ quietly slipped in an amendment to a vast congressional rewrite of the tax code that barred non-profit, tax-exempt organisations operating under Section 501c3 of the Code from endorsing political candidates.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Republicans, including McCarthy, might have had their own motives for supporting Johnson. They suspected the Rockefeller and other private foundations of pushing left-wing propaganda. Neither side gave a thought to the fact that the ban also applied to church pulpits. This ban, recently President Donald Trump promised to totally destroy the Johnson Amendment.
Today my administration is leading by example as we take historic steps to protect religious liberty in the United States of America. We will not allow people of faith to be targeted, bullied, or silenced anymore. We can also agree on the need to stand up to anti-Catholic bias.
Even so, removing the pulpit ban on candidate endorsements has become a recent priority for religious conservatives. For the first time, elimination of the Johnson Amendment was endorsed, and it has become part of the contract that Donald Trump established with religious conservatives for their overwhelming support in last year's presidential campaign.
And we will never, ever stand for religious discrimination. Never, ever. That's as big as it gets, right?
Given presidential backing and total GOP control of Congress, the Johnson Amendment's days could be numbered. If it should disappear, we could be one step closer to the formation of the image of the beast.
Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
Facts Forum, the anti-communist group that prompted LBJ to push through the ban on candidate endorsements, was shut down in 1956. Joe McCarthy, the Wisconsin senator whose often unsubstantiated claims fueled political panic, died the next year. But McCarthy's chief counsel, Roy Cohn, a subordinate Jew, survived and began a 30-year high-profile career in New York City. In the 1970s, he began offering his advice to a young man who would become his protege. That young man was Donald Trump.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
The Jesuit poverty is more of a communal poverty. So I personally don't own anything, and I have to share it. And I mean, I can't save up money. I can't just kind of spend money as I want. I have to ask for it. And then it's also according to my job and my apostolate and where I'm living, what's appropriate and what's kind of the mean or maybe the lower portion of how people in the area and that I'm working with live.
you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? This work continues. The story goes on. And an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm. God bless you all. And God bless America.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. King. Yes, king. Sound it out. Get ready. King. Sound it out. Get ready. King. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kick. Yes, kick. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Lesson 60 on page 150.
Never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Signs and symbols rule the world. We went over this in the football. I showed you in a commercial, these pillars, Boaz and Joab or whatever it is, they don't have the ball of arch behind his head with the football on it like we saw in the Freemason NFL. That's scripted shit. But don't forget what you just seen. It's very important that you let this truth sink in. It's all connected. It's all fixed. It's all rigged by these Freemasons, Illuminati, whatever you want to say, the powers that really run the world. You step out of line, you get whacked like JFK. You got to toe the line. So when they feed you the mission to moon or the mission to Mars coming up, maybe you'll have a discerning eye for the CGI and the propaganda that they portray. You probably don't even question rockets reverse landing. Maybe you will now. Hopefully I've opened your eyes. Just read that 2 Timothy where he says, I believe it's 2 Timothy, where he quotes that they'll believe in a science falsely so called. He takes the wise and their craftiness. I don't know where that's at, but it's in there. After all, curveball, you the one that said first, question everything and hold fast to that which is true. But you don't like Bible quotes, I know. That interferes with that atheistic mindset. That's what it's all about. I don't want you to know the truth. Wake up before you burn up.
Let's begin tonight by recognizing that the state of our union is strong. Since the election, we have created 2.4 million new jobs. Small business confidence is at an all-time high. The stock market has smashed one record after another. And our wealth, our nation has lost its wealth, but we're getting it back so fast. The era of economic surrender is totally over.
Hours after our President Donald Trump declares that the economy of the United States of America is at its strongest, and not only is it at its strongest, but it is going to get stronger, the stock market falls 666 points.
Market gains came to a screeching halt on Friday as the Dow suffers its worst points drop since 2008. On percentage terms, just over 2%, it's the worst fall since 2016. It ends at low sessions of the day, off 1,100 points for the week. More significantly, perhaps, volatility as seen through the VIX index, that is up 50%. Look at the Dow 30, and if you look at the Dow 30, not a single stock manages to raise itself above the parapet. Not surprising that, of course, because as the selling continues, so the portfolio and the algorithms kick in to sell vast quantities across the entire range of the Dow 30.
Now, of course, this has prompted a lot of different reactions online. Some proclaiming that this is a move of God, believing that this is God warning you about something that's coming. Others believing that this is actually a move by the elite. That this is a sign, a clear sign of who truly controls the economy. And as the stock market and the cryptocurrency market is going up, down, right, left, and with the rise of AI on top of that, which mostly has bots controlling both industries, it's safe to say, at least in my humble opinion, and remember, this is just an opinion based on the questions that you guys are asking, that none of this is coincidence. That number 666 and the stock market is not merely coincidence. Revelation 13:18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. 666. A day is coming, in my opinion, where a mark of the beast is going to be here, alive and well. And it is going to be able to track everything you buy and everything you sell. That technology is already here. That technology that they're going to be using for this such system is going to be here in no time. So for them to tie in 666, the stock market, which is our financial institution, and that ties into the mark of the beast, that to me is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. I'm not big on numerology. There are a lot of people who are very good on that. They'll be like 1 + 5 = 6. If you divide that by 2.897830 in today's February the 1st, this means that the Antichrist is alive and well. I don't do that. I can't break that down like that. But I can tell you not to put your trust in princesses and in men. Matthew 24:4, and Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceives you. No man. And if so many of you are bewildered by the stock market saying 666, I have news for you. That's nothing compared to the special effects event that you're going to be seeing at some point in time in the future. That's nothing compared to the deception. That's nothing compared to what you're going to see in 5 or 10 years. Psalm 146:3, like I said, put not your trust in princess, nor in the son of man. Here's the part about this whole thing. When I spoke about Bush, everyone was like, yeah, he's a deceiver, this and that. Okay. When I spoke about Clinton, yeah, she's a murderer, yeah. When you speak about Obama, yeah, people are putting their hopes in, talk about change we can believe in, that's a lie, there is no hope, blah, 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 yeah, he's a murderer, he supports sodomy, yeah, woohoo! God forbid you mention anything about Trump. He's our president. He's my president. Don't you dare talk about my president. He mentioned God in the speech. Did he mention Jesus Christ? No. Freemasons also believe in a God. It's just not the God that you think that they believe in. When someone says, in God we trust, ask yourself, by the actions of this country, in what God they're putting their trust in. It's not the God of the Bible, and it's not Jesus Christ. Yet you put your trust in the economy of the United States of America, not realizing that just as they could pull the trigger and make it say 666, they can pull the trigger and blow up that economy artificially or deflate it artificially. But the ones in control of this economy is not the president. Sadly, he has done the mistake of taking credit for a good stock market. And now, when it begins to crash slowly but surely as the years pass on, he's going to have to absorb the blame just as he took the credit for it going up. And that's just the way it is. My brothers and my sisters, let's go back to the basics. We're not of this world. You're not of this world. That's Bible. That's Bible. Job said it best in Job 31:24-28. If I have made gold my hope, or have said to the fine gold, thou art my confidence, if I rejoice because my wealth is great, and because mine hand has gotten much, if I beheld the sun when it's shining, or the moon walking in brightness, and my heart has been secretly enticed, or my mouth has kissed my hand, this also were an iniquity to be punished by the judge, for I should have denied the God that is above. As you're walking around on this earth, whether you're in the United States of America, whether you are in Puerto Rico, whether you are in Mexico, whether you are in Russia, whether you are in China, if you are a disciple of Christ, you're not of this world. Don't you notice that whether the economy is great or the economy is horrible, disciples of Christ are still persecuted around the world? It's true, or is it not true? It's true. So why are you celebrating the economy being so tremendously high? And or why are you celebrating it being tremendously low? When it has zero impact on you as a disciple of Christ, for persecution is coming. For this past week, they clearly proved to you that the stock market and the cryptocurrency market can be used to be manipulated like you wouldn't imagine, to the point that they can make it go down exactly 666 points. Once again, Matthew 24:4, and Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Yet many are still not listening to what I'm saying. Many will still think that I'm attacking Trump. Many will still think that I'm talking about this and that. It's not it. I said the same thing about the Clintons. I said the same thing about Obama. And I'm telling you the same thing about Donald Trump. Do I pray for him? Absolutely. Has he made some great decisions? He's made some good decisions. Absolutely. But I will not put my trust in princess nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no hope. God bless you, family. Things are going to get rocky in 2018. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Get in prayer. I urge you, get in deep prayer. Prepare your family for the future that's coming. Okay? You clearly saw, if anything, this past week, that the economy can be manipulated like that, to the point that they can make it go down exactly the points that they wanted to go down to spook the heck out of you. Right? And they surely did. So, if that's what they can do, folks, the cat's out of the bag now, man. It just further confirms to you that you're not of this world. That's what it does. So may God bless you and your family. And remember, just because you're not of this world, that means that you're alone. No, 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 no. You have the Holy Spirit of God. You have Jesus Christ himself dwelling within you. And that means that even if you're outnumbered by a bunch of Freemasons, you have the power of God. Oh, but Tally, you're preaching a message of no hope. No, that's not what I'm saying. On the contrary, it's a victorious message. For if your hope is not dependent upon the stock market, then the same God who makes sure he feeds the birds is the same one who's made sure that you ate something today. Did you eat something today? Oh, did you eat some fluffy pancakes? Did you eat some scrambled eggs? What did you eat today? It was something. Rejoice in that. Rejoice in the fact that you're not putting your trust upon the world governments of this world. You're putting your trust upon the King. a victorious King, in whom there is hope, in whom there is victory, in whom there is joy, in the King. Just because you're not of this world, that means that you're alone. No, 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 no. You have direct access to the Father right there where you're at, kneeling down and seeking Him. And pray for President Trump. And even pray for Obama. Pray for all of their repentance. In the name of Jesus, God desires that all men come to repentance. This is not about holding grudges or about not having hope that God can deliver people. No, it's not about that. It's about making you understand that just as Jesus was about His Father's business, you need to be about your Father's business. And your Father's business is saving people. Your Father's business is delivering people, casting out devils, setting the captives free. That's your Father's business, to deliver people.
Ladies and gentlemen, the courageous, the stunning Caitlyn Jenner.
A standing ovation tonight for an athlete who became an American hero at the Olympics and may now be changing America itself.
An eye-opening, inspiring, but also frightening. All across this country right now, all across the world at this very moment, there are young people coming to terms with being transgender. This transition has been harder on me than anything I could imagine. And that's the case for so many others besides me. For that reason alone, trans people deserve something vital. They deserve your respect.
She made the decision and the choice to do it publicly so that she could make a difference.
Hello. Caitlyn, welcome. You're going to see where our youth live with us for 18 months.
Where the work gets done.
She's educating others in her own education process. And I think that's been incredibly powerful.
If you want to call me names, make jokes, doubt my intentions, go ahead. I can take it. But for the thousands of kids out there coming to terms with being true to who they are, they shouldn't have to take it.
I give her credit for doing these things in front of cameras and in front of millions and millions of people. That takes a lot of strength.
I feel bad that these, especially young people, are going through such a difficult time in their life. We don't want people dying over this.
My family, they don't get it. Caitlyn gives me the hope that one day my family will wake up and say, you know, I miss my child.
How are you guys doing?
Hello. It takes a lot of courage, to say the least, to be who we authentically are. We just have to be so proud of ourselves. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
She's lived an amazing life, and she's always done amazing things. She's such a good role model for so many people. And I know she wants to do so much good with what she's doing.
Out of all the things I've done in my life, and I've done a lot, maybe this is why God put me on this earth. To tell my story, to be honest with myself about who I am, and in doing that, make a difference in the world.
Caitlyn Jenner, a name none of us had heard till 6 months ago, has in that short time helped teach America what it means to live a courageous and authentic life.
Over this last 6 months, it has been the most eye-opening experience of my life.
All you have to do is look at this month's cover of Vanity Fair to see how America is more accepting of people for who they truly are.
A major victory for transgender Americans. The ban on Medicare coverage for sex reassignment surgery that was first put in place 33 years ago has been lifted. The surgeries were not originally covered because they were considered experimental, but are now considered safe by several medical associations. This decision could make way for insurers to also begin offering coverage.
Because it's medically necessary care. It enhances quality of life. It makes you feel on an equal playing field as somebody else.
The decision comes from the Department of Health and Human Services. Medicare only covers people 65 years of age or older, so transgender patients requesting reassignment surgery will have their request reviewed just like any other medical treatment. The decision comes on the heels of an administrative challenge from last year when 74-year-old Army veteran Danae Mallon's doctor recommended she have gender reassignment surgery. Officials originally attempted to overturn the ban in 2013, but backlash halted the act. For now, the decision will only cover gender reassignment surgery, not other treatments like hormones. For Newsy, I'm Jasmine Bailey.
Francis was one of the most compelling figures on the global stage in 2015, and on the first day of 2016, he presided over a very busy New Year's Day in Rome. In the morning, he celebrated a Mass in St. Peter's Basilica in honor of Mary as the Mother of God, arguing that alongside a torrent of misery in today's world, there is also what he called an ocean of mercy that is every bit as much a part of the picture. At noon, he delivered his traditional New Year's Day Angelus address, focusing on peace, arguing that the real enemy of peace is not just war, it is also indifference, the kind of indifference that walls people off from one another and induces them to think only of themselves. In the evening, the pontiff traveled across Rome to the Basilica of St. Mary Major to open a holy door for his special Jubilee Year of Mercy, calling on Catholicism to be the kind of church that extends forgiveness to the world without limits.
Hey everyone, it's Vigilant Christian Mario, and you're here for another edition of New World Order Exposed. In today's video, I had to share this article with you. It was published in June, but man, it is so important for us to investigate this. Joel Osteen meets with Pope Francis at Vatican. Apparently, Joel had to say about Pope Francis that he, Pope Francis, made the church more inclusive.
La mayor parte de los habitantes del planeta se declaran creyentes. Esto debería provocar un diálogo entre las religiones. No debemos dejar de orar por él y colaborar con quienes piensan distinto.
Confío en Buda.
Creo en Dios.
Creo en Jesucristo.
Creo en Dios, Alá.
Muchos piensan distinto, sienten distinto, buscan a Dios o encuentran a Dios de diversa manera. En esta multitud, en este abanico de religiones, hay una sola certeza que tenemos para todos. Todos somos hijos de Dios.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor. Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Confío en vos para difundir mi petición de este mes. Que el diálogo sincero entre hombres y mujeres de diversas religiones conlleve frutos de paz y justicia. Confío en tu oración.
The United States has a role to play in the global community, and I'm committed to making access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy a priority for all citizens around the world.
I am happy to see the global community align around the second global goal, which is focused on ending hunger, achieving food security and improved nutrition, and promoting sustainable agriculture.
Ensuring access to basic education for these children is a low-cost investment that pays back dividends around the globe for generations to come. That's why I've made support for international basic education funding one of my priorities in Congress.
I've worked hard to increase U.S. funding for global education.
I'm so happy to see the global community align around the third global goal, which is really focused on ensuring healthy lives and promoting the well-being of all citizens around the world.
I'm happy to see the global community prioritize the 13th global goal, which is focused on taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts.
As we redouble our efforts to achieve the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, we need to prioritize funding these critical initiatives that end extreme poverty.
Hi, I'm Congressman Charlie Rangel, and I support the United States leadership in the global community. I'm glad to see that the community prioritizes the 10th global goal, which is focused on reducing inequality with and among countries.
As a member of Congress, I will continue to make sure that everyone has access to clean and safe drinking water. Everybody, every family deserves clean water, no matter where they are in the world.
We have a challenge in this millennium to make sure that we provide clean drinking water and sanitation for children and families across the world. I'm committed to that, and I'm glad you are too.
Dignity. It's that basic idea that by virtue of our common humanity, and that every person deserves to live free from want.
This is the only festival that you can get into only by doing service, only by being a better person. So to see this crowd of thousands, tens of thousands of people who all got here by taking action is so inspiring.
Hold your leaders accountable to make the world a better place.
Education is hope. Education is peace. Education is a basic human right.
These are our girls. They deserve the same chances to get an education as my daughters and your daughters and all of our children.
Governments have to do what you tell them if there's enough of you. It is always impossible until it is done.
I look out and I see a sea of global citizens, optimistic, determined. We can change the world.
The final total, ladies and gentlemen.
In Illinois, a professor at an evangelical college has been suspended for quoting Pope Francis as saying Christians and Muslims share the same God. She's seen here in another show of support for Muslims wearing a traditional head covering. Her suspension has stirred debate on the campus of the Wheaton College.
Savior was born into a world of terror and precipitated even more by his arrival.
And terrorism always has at its root religion, doesn't it?
It seems to, it does.
And it's a false religion that goes against the light. It's darkness fighting against light.
Did you know the first murder in the Bible was over a religious war?
Yeah, Cain and
Two
Abel.
brothers, different approaches to how to worship God?
Different approaches how to get, that's right, how to get to God, how to have a relationship with God.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, what do you
works
make
versus
of,
grace.
What do you make of this terrorism and the rise of Islam in America? It's come to our shores.
Well, I think it's been here for a long time. It just hasn't been awakened.
And I think we're going to see more and more and more of it popping up.
I'm convinced of that. I believe America is under judgment. And I give 6 or 7 things. We won't have time, but let me just give you 3 of them. Let me read a verse for your viewers here. Says this is talking about Israel, of course. Israel had turned its back, had disobeyed God. Here's what God said. The Lord, because of their disobedience and turning their back on God, like America's doing, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Now, I don't understand their tongue,
right?
Of the Muslim tongue and the or whatever you call their language,
Arabic.
Farsi. Yeah. But they're foreigners, and I'm not saying all those people are bad. They're not. There's some good people of there. But God says that He'll bring people against us from another nation when we disobey Him. Now America's turned from God. There's no doubt about that.
You think this is partly the judgment of God?
I think it is, and we've turned from God.
I think rather defiantly this last year.
Yeah. Not only have we given in on some things, we're pushing sin. We're pushing it upon.
And we're attacking Christianity.
We've turned our back on Israel to the great degree.
Turned our back on Israel, supporting them.
And God is judging us.
With me now, CNN terror analyst Peter Bergen and CNN military analyst General Mark Hertling. Welcome to both of you.
Morning.
Thank you, Carol.
Good morning. The numbers are stark. According to Catholic Charities, in 2006, before the U.S. invaded Iraq, there were 1.2 million Christians in Iraq. Today, there are just 250,000. So, General, will Christians ever be able to really return home?
Hey everybody, I'm Todd Starnes. President Obama says banning Syrian refugees because of their religious beliefs is un-American. Those of us who fear that Islamic radicals might be lurking among the refugees have been called every name in the book: bigots, Islamophobes. But the cold, hard reality is the Protestants and Catholics and Jews aren't the ones beheading people. The president remains steadfast. The Muslims will come. He told reporters that we don't have religious tests to our compassion. But that's not exactly accurate. You see, last year, the Obama administration led a fierce legal battle against an evangelical Christian family from Germany, the Romeike family. They came to our nation legally so they could homeschool their children. Yet the administration fought tooth and nail to have them deported, only to change their minds at the last hour. And just a few months ago, a federal immigration judge ordered more than a dozen Iraqi Christians deported, allegedly for immigration fraud. So the next time President Obama wants to lecture the nation about religion, maybe he could explain why his administration is importing Muslims and deporting Christians. I'm Todd Starnes.
Also this morning, a devilish debut in Detroit as a group unveils a nearly 9-foot-tall satanic statue. The 1-ton bronze sculpture costs more than $100,000 and features a goat head. Ticket holders were given a location where hundreds of people show up for this, including both supporters and protesters. But invitees were then given a second secret address where the statue is actually located.
Protesters prayed. Hundreds waited for tickets to the unveiling of an 8-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan. Most of the people here agree with the teachings of the Satanic Temple, the group responsible for the event.
It's here, it's in Detroit, and this is fantastic that we get to experience this and we get to see this amazing statue be unveiled for all the world to see.
Many tell us they feel misunderstood and are quick to point out they do not worship the devil.
Mostly about individuality. So the one thing I don't like is the backlash, but they have no knowledge or have no ears open to listen to it.
In the name of Jesus! Lord, remove them. Protesters took the heavy rainfall as some sort of sign and even brought their own statue of an angel crushing the devil.
For them to come out and want to make a statement that all of this is horrible, it's rotten, they don't, I feel sorry for them. I really, really feel sorry for them.
Hail, comrades! Hail, sisters and brothers, and hail, Satan! We are gathered here to celebrate the spirit of humanity in the dawn of a new American era. In a season when many commemorate the birth of Christ, we commemorate our own Genesis, the enlightenment of all humanity, a revelation of our nature as written in the annals of history, a gift from Lucifer, the light bringer, the morning star, and the rebel. We are Satanists. We engender moral, spiritual, and sexual freedom. 2 weeks ago, hundreds of Christians gathered to demand exclusion of our fellow countrymen from the right to join in marriage under the guise of religious freedom. They slandered the name of this great country for embracing the diversity of its citizens. They cheered and praised when called upon to radicalize. For too many, religion has become an excuse to exclude, to hate, and to destroy. It is time for us to merge our differences and realize that we have a common problem. It matters not if you are a Baptist or a Methodist, a Muslim, or if you are faithless. You see, we are not anti-Christian and we are not anti-religion, but we are anti-degradation and we are anti-oppression. If religion is to lead in areas which have traditionally been left to a secular democracy, we will do our duty too, to bring the insights of our satanic practice to the State House, to the courthouse, to schools, and of course homes and businesses of America. Wherever and whenever diverse religious guidance is needed. All hail the new American era, to the satanic emancipator and end of repressive traditions. Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Hail Satan!
Now we are going to change gears a little bit. We're going to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith's son, Jaden, and Will Smith's son. Headlines with a new look. He's sporting a skirt for Louis Vuitton's new women's campaign. And Deborah Roberts, that's the reason that you are here. Really, a lot of people are talking about this and a lot of positive reaction to it.
A lot of positive, but also some mixed reaction. If you know anything about Jaden, you know that he is no stranger to edgy, provocative statements on social media or with his appearance. But this newest campaign has the fashion world buzzing.
The Karate Kid growing up and making a mark in the fashion world.
This morning, the newest face of Louis Vuitton's woman's line. Yes, that's right, Jaden Smith is styling in ladies' fashion with this post on his Instagram. Thank you so much at Louis Vuitton and at Nicolas Guesquière for the opportunity to impact this world.
We are seeing an evolution. And we're also seeing fashion do what fashion loves to do, which is to play with our expectations, to tug on our prejudices, and to surprise us.
In a press release, the company saying Jaden represents a generation that has assimilated the codes of true freedom. Wearing a skirt comes as naturally to him as it would to a woman.
Generous how he and wife Jada support all their children's choices.
We decided a long time ago that it's sort of better to flow with what people are naturally more than like what our egos need them to be.
There is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God.
Ron Wagner is not reading the 5 Pillars of Islam from the Quran, but rather his son's 10th grade world history book from Lyman High School.
22 students were instructed to recite this prayer off of the board at the teacher's instruction.
Wagner, who says he's not religious, says he had no idea the public school was teaching so extensively about religion until he spotted this text on his son's phone, a reminder from his teacher to complete a prayer rug assignment and study an Islam packet.
For it to be mandatory and part of the curriculum and in the textbooks didn't seem right.
Inside, a chapter dedicated to the rise of Islam, including prayers and scriptures from the Quran. What's more disturbing for Wagner, the first 100 pages discussing Judaism and Christianity are missing. The district blames a manufacturer defect in 68 books that are only a year old.
Welcome back to The Real Story. A former Marine getting banned from his daughter's high school in Maryland after challenging a history assignment requiring students to list the benefits of Islam. School officials say Kevin Wood met with the vice principal and threatened to cause a disruption. But Wood's wife denies that and says it was the school that overreacted.
And they're making him sound like he's some bad person. He's no bad person. He fought for your country. And I think he has a right as a parent. We both have a right as a parent to ask for an alternative assignment to have been given.
Tonight, Fox 46 goes in search of answers after receiving a call from a woman in Indian Trail. Her son is in the 9th grade at Porter Ridge High School. She was upset by what he was learning about Islam in his world history honors class.
And since the call, Casey Hollins has been working to track down all that she can about this particular worksheet. She joins us live now from the newsroom with more on this story. Casey?
Thanks, Barbara. Well, the mother who called us didn't want to be identified. She was concerned it would single out her son at school, but she did agree to sit down and talk with me. She also gave me a copy of the worksheet in question, and since then I've been trying to figure out where it came from and how it fits into the North Carolina school curriculum.
Most Muslims' faith is stronger than the average Christian. Now, my child had to fill in faith is stronger. That's not a fact. That isn't some kind of scientific thing they're teaching my child. This is opinion.
It was that exact question on her son's fill-in-the-blank worksheet that got this mother so upset. She believes her son is learning inaccuracies about Islam and that he's learning the religion in too much detail.
My child had to describe the 5 pillars of Islam. If you can't learn the 10 Commandments, he cannot learn the 5 pillars of Islam. That's just wrong. I have chosen in my home not to teach my child these things. I don't feel it's the school's right.
Islamic Center of Charlotte spokesperson Jabril Huff disagrees, saying all major world religions should be taught in detail.
If they just go through school and learn a lot of the cultural traditions of, say, secular Christianity, and they don't understand anything else, then they get out of school and they have misconceptions about what Hindus.
A school district in Virginia has decided to shut down all schools today because of a controversial Islam assignment that one of the teachers assigned. Now, the teacher who assigned it is not Muslim. In fact, the teacher who assigned it is being protected by the superintendent of the Augusta County Schools. However, the county school official said there was no specific threat or harm, but Thursday afternoon, extracurricular activities were canceled as well. The lesson is kind of controversial if you ask me, okay? So the whole point of the assignment was to be part of a broader unit on major world religions and ask students to copy Islamic religious calligraphy, right? So that in and of itself doesn't sound bad. I did a little more digging to figure out exactly what it was that parents were so outraged about, and it was that the students had to write, "There is no God, but God and Muhammad is the prophet of God."
The future must not belong to those who slander the prophet of Islam.
You know, I've said before that one of the great strengths of the United States is, although as I mentioned, we have a very large Christian population, we do not consider ourselves a Christian nation or a Jewish nation or a Muslim nation. We consider ourselves a nation of citizens who are bound by ideals and a set of values. I think modern Turkey was founded with a similar set of principles. And yet, what we're seeing is, in both countries, that promise of a secular country that is respectful of religious freedom, respectful of rule of law, respectful of freedom, upholding these values and being willing to stand up for them in the international stage. If we are joined together in delivering that message, east and west, to the world, then I think that we can have an extraordinary impact.
Information from the Middle East. They also contain many marriage and family records. The detailed information they hold allows accurate dating to be established. They are still being deciphered, but already translations have revealed accounts of the kings of the cities of the plain. One of the tablets names Bersha as the king of Gomorrah and lists the cities of the plain in total harmony with the Bible, both chronologically and geographically. Josephus also identifies 5 cities of the plain during this period of history, supporting biblical records. In Einar's room, the sulfur gems were arranged on a table. Everyone wanted to see another one burn, but care had to be taken because of the smoke alarms. Opening all the doors and windows and choosing the smallest sample, Simon placed it in an ashtray and lit it. The effect was even more startling than in the open air. It burned bright blue, which couldn't be seen in the sunlight, but in the small space, the fumes were horrific. Everyone but Simon left the room until 1 minute later, this tiny sample burned out.
In some really disturbing news, children as young as 9 years old are going to be given access to sex change drugs. Yes, you heard that right. They could be given these drugs. They'll delay the onset of puberty, and this is the first step towards a sex change operation.
Are you okay? I didn't mean to kick you that hard.
Why'd you kick me at all?
You kissed me, remember? In the tent? And then at the movie theater, you held my hand. And now all day you've been... I don't get this. I don't get you.
I don't care, I wanna take
often built into the cliff sides, walls, doorways, wells, built of the same brickwork. This was once a well-irrigated place. Consider this reference from the Bible. Lot looked up and saw that the whole plain of Jordan was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt toward Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of Jordan, stream beds and watercourses, pebbles, water in abundance running right through the city, dams directing water sometimes under buildings, structures lining the banks of the streams, fossils, some that looked like mussels, fused together by what appears to be a great burst of heat. In order to provide a sample good enough for the precision of the X-ray fluorescent spectrometer to read, Andy had to be very thorough in his preparation. In short, Simon's brimstone samples were to be analyzed. Then the same tests would be conducted on sulfur flowers that had been chemically refined by laboratory methods. Sulfur flowers are the purest form of the element available today, being over 99% pure. The test results are then compared in order to give a benchmark or standard so that the purity of the brimstone samples can be ascertained. Beginning by hand, Andy set about crushing one of Simon's samples. Even at this stage, Andy remarked on how pure the samples Simon had provided appeared. Both the standard sulfur and the brimstone were then mixed with a binding agent, lithium carbonate. Next, it was mixed in a blender and then pressed in a machine to a compression of 40 tons. What they are left with is this. 6 samples for analysis have been prepared, 3 of the standard sulfur flowers and 3 of Simon's samples.
As an openly gay man, it causes a significant amount of personal pain for me. When the church that I love says homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching, is just fundamentally unfair and untrue.
And the fruit of the Spirit will come back to you.
We wonder why these folks keep banging on the doors, keep pushing us and pushing us, trying to back us into a corner.
And the kingdom will surely grow, and what you grow with love.
I think every time we go, we hope that this will be the year. You want to believe that people will do the right thing. You know, you want to believe that, of course, the church will step up.
San Francisco pastor Karen Oliveto, Berkeley Divinity professor Randall Miller, and Bakersfield pastor Richard Thompson are heading toward a showdown. It's church doctrine that says homosexuality is a sin.
Happy Easter!
They would like to see the church ordain gay and lesbian ministers and perform same-sex marriages. But the progressives will face opposition within the church from a coalition of conservative evangelicals. At First United Methodist in Bakersfield, California, Pastor Richard Thompson leads the Sunday morning service.
Homosexual people are to be loved. They're our brothers and sisters, but the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching and has been for 2,000 years.
Every Sunday I go to communion service and ask the Lord to forgive me where I have sinned.
Evangelicals in the room argue that the church's position on homosexuality is true to the Bible and that God loves the sinner but hates the sin.
That if we want the pathway to heaven, we must repent of the things that we do that the Bible tells us that is wrong.
Repent? I'm not going to repent.
Gay and lesbian delegates in the room respond with personal stories.
Makes me very sad when I hear some of you, though, say, no, I love you, I love you, I love you, but what you and Linda have is wrong. And when I hear that, I hear you saying that what you do in the bedroom is wrong. I hear you saying that it also must be wrong then that we own a home and cut the grass and buy the groceries and bring them home. That everything that goes into making up what she and I have is wrong for some of you. It's fine with me if you want to hold my relationship to high standards. I think we should hold all relationships to high standards. I just don't want you to tell me that I can't have one.
Harry, I do love you, and you're responsible for me changing where I am, where I was to where I am today. And I'm basically a conservative theological person. We have got to change this discipline, take out this harmful language.
After a lengthy debate, the delegates vote by paper ballot. For the petition to advance to the next stage, a majority of the delegates will need to vote for it.
I do have the result of the ballot. The petition has passed. 14 votes in favor of removing the language, 12 votes opposed, and 1 abstention. Let us pray. Dear God,
it's the first time that a petition like this has passed the committee, one that totally removes the church's language on homosexuality. It's an early indication that the Progressive Coalition could actually succeed.
Amen.
The liberal camp celebrates.
One day soon, in fact, God willing, we may even be able to walk down the aisle of this church that we love so much, and nothing means more than that to me. But there's a lot of work to be done before that happens. One of the most important things that has to happen before we do that is that I probably should, with the permission of your parents, David.
In one of the nation's biggest churches.
We have a dilemma, and it's not unique to our church.
A West Sacramento bishop is about to become the international leader of the United Methodist Church. With 13 million followers worldwide, he tells KCRA3 in an exclusive interview the biggest issue the church is now wrestling with is same-sex marriage.
And next year, Bishop Warner Brown Jr. will assume leadership of the United Methodist Church. It's the third largest congregation here in Northern America.
KCRA3's Kevin Oliver sat down with the bishop today and asked whether the church will change its stance on same-sex marriage.
There will be times when, as the leader, I will need to personally represent the church in various capacities.
When Bishop Warner Brown takes the helm of the United Methodist Church, he will inherit what he calls one of the most divisive issues his church has faced in decades.
How do we deal pastorally with the families that are caught into the middle of this?
Shortly after the Supreme Court ruled on DOMA and Proposition 8, Bishop Brown posted a statement on the internet advising pastors in Nevada and Northern California to send same-sex couples somewhere else if they want to marry.
If a same-sex couple came to you and asked you to marry them, what would you do?
Personally, I would not do that. I would assist them in finding someone who would do that, and I would be supportive of them if I thought their relationship was healthy and sound.
Brown says as bishop, he took a vow to follow the church's rules contained in the Book of Discipline. There is a clear difference of opinions among Methodists. The pastor of St. Mark's in Sacramento County has said he would marry same-sex couples in his church.
We believe it's really important that churches are places that are open to all people. And I, as a pastor, say that everybody in my congregation, I don't have first and second class citizens.
The church has stripped clergy of their positions for breaking church law in the past. Brown says it's not for him to decide.
The person's peers will decide how to do with that.
You won't have anything to do with that.
I only administer it to make sure it's fair.
Now, church rules can be changed at a conference held every 4 years, but Bishop Brown says what happens in the Methodist Church depends on what the people of the church want, not necessarily the leadership.
Interesting to hear what he had to say today.
The sample was individually transported into the testing chamber for analysis. The results proved to be quite amazing. As the samples were found to be 98% pure sulfur, unlike any other sulfur found on Earth. This pure, cooked sulfur is the heavenly marker that was left behind to show the world that the Lord, without a doubt, destroyed these sinful cities at His command. Critics have said that the sulfur is from volcanic activity, but that type of rhombic sulfur is only 40% sulfur and is of a crystalline form, unlike the white, compacted monoclinic form that is found in the ashen cities
their
today.
Subject admit that they have never seen anything like them. That natural disasters like volcanic activity or industrial accidents fail to explain adequately the baked ash, or the hundreds of thousands of sulfur missiles burning at temperatures that cannot be calculated with modern machinery, that have been embedded in walls and sprayed around the close proximity of these 5 cities, so selectively that no trace of them exists in the terrain in between the 5 sites whatsoever, and above all, that a detailed description of the events, the locations, the substances, and the reasons why this all happened exists in the Bible that we hold in our hands today.
Oh.